Welcome to beautiful, almost sunny Colorado. Today we have an opportunity with Yamaha to ride the updated 2024 Yamaha Ténéré 700, and we're riding in basically our own backyard. We are right around the mountains of Crescent Butte, so we're going to do a ton of riding up here in Alpine, Colorado. Let's hit it. This is the bike in question. It is an updated Yamaha Ténéré 700. You can see one moving around right there. And it's mostly a stock motorcycle. We do have these crash bars on the bike, which we might end up needing today on some of the trails that we're riding. And they've also swapped out the tires. So we've got these pretty aggressive Dunlops here that should help us out with some of the riding that we're doing today. For the most part, though, this is the same bike that we've had for quite a while. 689cc parallel twin. This is Yamaha's CP2. It's again a motor that we've seen for quite a long time. One of our favorite engines on any Japanese bike from any of the manufacturers. And this particular bike is finished in gray and black. Now, one of the things that's updated, if I flip on the TFT, is that they've changed a little bit of the menus here. And the main thing that I'm going to be actually using today is my rear ABS off. You click it once and then you have to click and hold, and then you'll actually have ABS off. But like before, that cycles away when you flip the key off. So each time you key cycle it, you are going to have to go through and do that again. They do also have a quick button for you to hit ABS back on, which is nice to have, but I wouldn't hate it if they had a similar thing for ABS off. This particular bike also has the tall seat, so for comparison, this is what the standard seat looks like. You can see it dips a little bit lower there than this seat does. That's more built up and it's a little bit flatter, more like a dirt bike. Should give us the ability to move around a little bit easier. Now it's time we get rolling on the T7s, and once again, pretty familiar bike. We've gotten a chance to ride this quite a few times. Last time I was on it was in California. We rode from Cypress, which is where Yamaha has a location. And from Cypress, we were able to ride to some pretty incredible mountains. We were riding up above the clouds, but now, like I said, we're in Colorado. And this is really a pretty perfect place for the Ténéré because this bike is good all around. It's, like we've said before, something that you can ride on the street, no problem whatsoever, even fairly long distances. I mean, hell, I interviewed a guy that had insane miles on his Ténéré 700, and he had messed with the gearing a little bit, but the bike is good enough on the highway to rack up a lot of miles, and then it's light enough that you can still have some fun on some more difficult trails. Right now, there's more of a fire road, but still really pretty, and I know we're going to get into some gnarlier stuff from here. But yeah, once again, there's just a lot of terrain here in Colorado, in our neck of the woods, that you can have fun with this bike on. So, pretty happy to be on it. If I was in the market for a brand new motorcycle, this would definitely be on the list. These bikes come in at about $10,800, and that's not a small sum of money. I wouldn't call it a cheap motorcycle, but for the blend of performance and features that you get, it's not a bad price tag. Still puts it a little outside of the range of most motorcycles that I look at in my personal day-to-day, but that's why I'm happy to get to ride Yamahas. I don't have to pay for it. Now, I'm sure you can tell, because I'm at the back of the pack, I'm not an amazing dirt rider by any stretch of the imagination. This is really some of the only times that I get to do this kind of riding is when we come on these events. So other guys that are here, man, like Adam Wahid especially, some of these guys are really ripping riders, and they can tell you how this bike feels at the very extreme end of the spectrum. But if you're looking to get into ADV riding, and you've done motorcycling in the past, but this is maybe a newer category to you, then I can give you a little bit more of that perspective, because that's more so where I'm at. And if you're looking for a first motorcycle to buy in order to get into some adventure riding, this should probably be on the short list, because some of the bigger bikes like the Pan America or the big GSs. They're expensive, of course, and they're heavy. And if you plan to actually do some off-road riding, then it's going to be a little bit of a handful. Then again, if you want to use it more like a sport tourer and maybe do the occasional fire road, a bike like that would be better on the highway, just more power and more stable, heavier. But if you do want to do a good blend of on-road and off-road riding, something like this Ténéré 700 is going to be a really good balance for you. So it's a great motorcycle to step into adventure riding with. If you want to go for a much smaller bike, you could do like a Royal Enfield Himalayan. Those are even less expensive, but you're not going to get the same performance on one of those that you're going to get with this. So it kind of depends on what you're potentially looking for. But either way, if you do end up with any adventure bike, then you'll get to come to places like this with a group of guys, go camp, have fun, see some pretty incredible sights. Mountains that we're riding through here, through Crested Butte, are one of the more incredible parts of the state. KYB suspension on this Ténéré 700 is also pretty great. I'm about 175 pounds, and that puts me on the lighter end of the spectrum for a lot of riders, at least here in the States. And even so, this bike still feels plenty plush to me, about 200 millimeters of travel, and I'm definitely not bottoming it out at any point. Not like I'm sending it super hard. And there is adjustability in the suspension, which is pretty cool too. I haven't spent the time to dial all that in because I'm only on this bike for a day. And it looks like we're pulling up to this abandoned cabin, which is our first kind of sightseeing thing of the day, which is pretty sweet. Now, I won't spend too much time talking about specs on this motorcycle because it is something that we've reviewed a number of times, and I'll link one of our previous videos in here if you want to dive into that with a little bit more detail. But again, this bike has been around, so most of you probably know the specs by now, but we've got 43 millimeter KYB inverted forks. We have twin Brembo brakes up here in the front. We have a KYB rear shock. We do have some compression and rebound adjustability. We've got an 18-inch rear wheel and a 21-inch front wheel. So those are some of our basic specs with this bike. And again, a lot of that is stuff that if you know this bike, you know that because it's mostly the same. Also want to say a quick thanks to Scott and the team over at Rider Justice. They've been supporting our channel basically since day one. So if you ever need legal representation, either on 2 wheels or 4, whichever vehicle, then make sure you call Scott first. And I do like this tall seat okay also. The last time I rode this bike, I was on a standard seat. And this tall one isn't too bad. I'm 5'10", and I can reach. I don't know if I would actually pick it long term because I definitely got to slide off the seat a little to touch the ground. I'm for sure not flat footing this bike with the tall seat, but the seat at least feels good, and once we're actually moving, then it's fine, obviously. But yeah, no, good setup on this bike all around, and it's always good to get to come out to the mountains and just work on honing some skills a little bit, because again, this is the majority of ADV, well, really the only ADV riding that I do is on camera for work. It's these events when they come on. So it's a lot of fun to get to do. You guys get to watch me kind of figure it out, I guess, in real time, but still a pretty spectacular way to spend a day at work, so can't imagine a thing to complain about, really. And once again, just getting to do an event in our home state of Colorado here is always a welcome change of pace. So that's all for this video. You know, we've liked the Ténéré 700 in the past. It's still a great bike, still highly recommend it. And let me know what you all think down in the comments below. That's all, and we'll see you in the next. Thanks for watching, and enjoy the riding season.